What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back. This is Around the VLA, Season 3, Episode 3. It's January 30th, 2023. I'm Rob St. Clair, live from Chicago. That is my co host, Vince Zanzuki, live from Arizona. Vince, it's great to see you. Last time before we get your particular half of the country kicked off for the VLA season, we've got a lot of VLA volleyball coming up, the first of 5 weekends in a row this weekend in San Diego, and you and I will both be there, which I'm very excited about.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty amazing. First time we've ever had five tier one events happen in a row, 5 weekends in a row. So it's going to be we're packing a lot of volleyball in here for the next month. So it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, it's going to be sweet. So hopefully every week in between all these things, we'll be back here and around the VLA to catch everyone up with the volleyball that's going on and preview the next events and all that sort of thing. And with that said, this is the first episode we've done since the season's kickoff event, which was in the Central Division. So let's catch up on that, Vince. If you want to spend some time talking about Team Pineapple. Pretty impressive. I'm not going to say that I called it on the last show that we did, but I did say I had a little bit of a feeling about Team Pineapple coming out of that first Central Division event. Sure enough, they go 3-1. They come away with 9 points. Two five setters against their long rivals, the Chicago Icemen. Big win in the last match of the weekend, and then from basically about to lose the match in 3 to forcing 5 and grabbing that extra point in the first match of the season. What was your impression overall about the first event of the year with Pineapple, Iceman, and Swede before we dig into some of the matches a little more?
Definitely, the storyline would be Team Pineapple's turnaround.
Yeah.
That's the best that they've done pretty much ever in their first event, their home event. They've ran this 3 years in a row, and they definitely I did better than I expected. I definitely thought that they would be sitting at last in the division at this point. But they had some new players, new pieces. Austin Neese came in, did a fantastic job. Jake Romano played really, really well. And they just played a lot better ball, team ball. You can tell that they've been practicing as opposed to previous years where it's been kind of an issue for them that they haven't really seen the court a whole lot together before going into any of these events.
Yeah, that was a huge takeaway for me too. Just being there, there were these new Team Pineapple pieces that looked a lot more cohesive and integrated than in years past. And I think I brought it up on the broadcast at one point that there were flashes of the Loy Ball era of Team Pineapple at a couple different points. And what I mean by that is when Loy was playing and when Team Pineapple was just destroying everybody in like the PVL era and even before, one of the hallmarks of that team was when they would get into a late stage situation in a set, like when it was 20-20, or when they were down 1 or 2 points late and had to grab a huge break point here and there. They had to go on a run. They had to, do whatever it took to get it to overtime and then win. Loy's Team Pineapple teams were always able to do that in just some magical way that you can't really teach or explain. You just kind of either have that as a team or you don't. And there were situations for Team Pineapple in that first event where they got into situations very much like that. I mean, in both the wins over Swede, like a lot of those sets were close. Like 4 of the 6 sets they played were 2 or 3 points in the end of it. And Team Pineapple every single time was the clutcher team. Late, they were the ones that made the plays. They got block touches. They dug balls. They put on service pressure in key moments, and that reminded me of the Team Pineapple teams that I kind of grew up seeing dominate everybody else in a similar way. So I noticed that being there, and I think it's important to bring that up and follow along to see if Team Pineapple can kind of keep that clutch gene throughout the season.
That's something that's definitely learned through time. I
Yeah.
mean, you learn to score points as a team, particularly late in matches when you get a lot of that experience. Whether or not this Team Pineapple team is already gaining that experience right away, well, clearly they are because they're doing it. But how did that translate later in the season when the teams are just a little bit stronger? I guess we'll find out. But I think right now they set themselves up in a great position, and coming out being on top of the Central after the first event is a huge step for them to turning things around for their program.
Yeah, so the last several years, really since the VLA has existed, the Central Division in Tier 1 has been owned by one team and one team only, and that's been the Chicago Icemen. And I think it would have been easy to predict that they would repeat kind of what they did last year in this event, going 4-0 with I think it was 11 points last year, like almost perfect. And they basically had the division locked up before the season really even felt like it got started. But totally different story this time. What's your perspective on watching the Icemen from afar coming away with only 7 points out of a possible 12?
I still feel like they are kind of looking for that cohesiveness on the outside. I think that they have Griffin on the right side, who's one of the best in the league. Obviously, both setters played fantastic this
Yeah,
weekend.
Chris Cox was really good.
That last weekend, yeah, they both played really well. I didn't see a really huge difference between either of them when one was on the floor and one wasn't on the floor. However, I just feel like their outsides. Um, they just need one of them to step up and be that go-to late in matches to score those points and to shut teams out, because clearly that they had opportunities. The big one, obviously, with Swede, they were up I think 3 points at a set point against him, and then ended up dropping it 2 straight points and to lose the sets or to lose the match. And so those types of things, you just got to have that guy that you know is going to get the ball and then is going to score that point for you. And I'd like to believe that Kyle Overby can definitely be that guy for them. But he did have the opportunities and didn't do it this weekend, or last weekend. So I think that Iceman just needs that one little answer, that one little piece. They can't get by on just blowing teams out, because I think that the teams are improving, and they're going to be closer matches. They're not going to just all be blowouts where they can kind of coast through at the end.
Yeah, and I do think they've gotten used to that a little bit with the Central the last couple years, and this event obviously showed that's not going to fly anymore. I mean, I go back to all the way to the first match of the season, that first match that Saturday morning against Team Pineapple. I think the Icemen led something like 23-20, maybe 22-19, already up 2 sets to none. Like the match looked like it was over. It literally looked like it was over. I remember thinking, oh, okay, cool, we're gonna have a couple hours here. I can go get lunch. Like the Icemen are gonna put this away. This is gonna be no problem. And that was anything but the case. Team Pineapple stormed back. They stole the set. They stole the fourth. They pushed it all the way to five, where like the Icemen won that fifth convincingly. But that's 2 sets worth of extra energy that they had to spend to win that match that they probably shouldn't have had to spend. And in an event like the regular season events in Tier 1, where you're playing 4 matches in 2 days, every set that you don't have to play is hugely important for keeping your guys as in full energy, full condition. Just preventing that exhaustion, that fatigue that can set in after playing that much volleyball. Like having to play 2 extra sets is a big deal. And then both of the Iceman matches on Sunday both went 5. So they played the most sets of any team there by far, and they didn't quite have the depth, I think, especially an outside hitter, like you said, to really be ready for that.
Yeah, I think it definitely came down to the outside hitters. I think Luke Spicer came in. He did a good job on the right side to kind of give Griffin that break that he needed. Obviously, the setters did their job. Merck did their job. I think that a little bit to an extent, Poindexter not being there, not being able to play, he's kind of a factor there, because there's not too many bigger blocks than him. And I thought that Matt Harpenow and Matt Walsh both had fantastic weekends and in fantastic matches against Iceman. I think that Matt Walsh was pretty much the key factor of them getting to 5 in that first match anyways. And if you have maybe a little bit stronger block up there, maybe they don't go 5. Maybe they are able to shut them down. But I think that Team Pineapple Middles definitely took advantage of their situation there.
Yeah, I think it comes down to just one other outside hitter character next to Kyle Overby. I mean, they Faulkner and the Iceman, they didn't want to make Kyle play every single set of every match, because that's not sustainable even for someone like him. So like somebody like a Grant Coker, like a Lewis Richard, are going to have to step up and be more primary scoring characters. And that's not really either of those guys' game. So the Icemen are going to have to try and figure that out. They've got a month to work before the Central Division Cup comes around, but their outside hitter reinforcements are both overseas right now in Matt Slavinsky and Mike Mikolau. and they're not going to have those guys back for the Chicago tournament in early March. So I think the earliest would be maybe Louisville in April, if not then the VLA Cup in May. So they can't just try and coast along with I think the outside hitter depth that they have right now to wait for reinforcements to come back from overseas, because I think they're going to lose too much ground if they wait too long to do that.
Yeah, I still think that they're in a good position. I mean, it depends on what their goals are. Obviously, Iceman's goal is to win a championship, not just to make a playoff run or anything like that. Their tradition, obviously, them being in the finals, winning two championships before that. Their goal is to be the best team in the VLA. So with that being said, those guys do need to step it up to help put them in a position where they can go and be that team. Right now, I don't see it. I think that with their next event, the Central Division Cup, it's going to be kind of telling. They struggled with Tier 2 teams traditionally. And so if they're struggling against Tier 2 teams and then they're struggling with teams in their division, they're going to have to try to find that answer to really put themselves in position to really succeed this year.
So how about the Iceman crosstown rival? How about Swede and their Tier 1 debut? They obviously got promoted this offseason. We've talked about it on the show that Jordan Smith and the boys with their amazing season last year just got to that 50 points right on the number. And the thing is, though, that even though it was their first event in Tier 1, this event was not unfamiliar to them. They played the exact same event, exact same format last year when they played up as a Tier 2 team. Swede only coming away with 2 points, I think, was unexpected and obviously not in a good way. I think we both expected a little bit more out of them. I mean, the win versus the Icemen in the fifth on Sunday morning with Klosak block and Overby one-on-one in the fifth was obviously a highlight, but they've got to get more points than that. And I think it comes down to those late set situations. They had a bunch of them against Team Pineapple in both matches and a couple against the Icemen as well in various situations. And just were not prepared to get those crucial points late in games. And it definitely cost them. Like getting swept 3 out of their 4 matches and not getting any points on the board in those is going to cost them as they try to make the playoffs.
Yeah, I think that Swede just doesn't want to find themselves in the position that Northeast Force found themselves in last year.
Right.
They really struggled against their division rivals. They weren't able to really pull off any wins. They would take a set here or take a match to 5, get a point that way, and then really most of their points came from the Division Cup and the VLA Cup. If Swede finds themselves in that position where they're struggling to get points from Pineapple and Iceman, there's a good probability they're going to be watching the championships from home this year. But still, I think that Swede is a pretty sound team. I think that they have a lot of potential to turn things around just with this season alone. I predicted them to win the Central, and obviously, they didn't prove me, too accurate after the first one. But it's only one event. There's still, 4 more for them. So they're going to have their opportunities to turn around. It's just whether or not they really step up and do it, or if they, just continue to kind of be that, mid-level or below average team in the Tier 1.
Yeah, I think the real on-court issue for them, for me, was the setter position. I'm not talking down on Jordan Smith, but the problem was that he was the only setter that was there. Having to play every single point of 4 matches in a weekend, I think libero is probably the only position where you might be able to get away with that. Like Merck did it for the Icemen. We didn't see any drop-offs from him, but a 6 rotation setter to play 4 best-of-5 matches in a weekend in 2 days is not really that sustainable. And I think Swede really, really missed Jack McGuire. And unfortunately for them, they're going to continue to miss Jack McGuire because they're going to have the same problem with him that the Icemen are having with Will Kraft. Both those guys coaching Division III men's at Dominican, and their season is right now, and they're playing like they're coaching that team pretty much every weekend. I think that both of those guys, Kraft for the Icemen and McGuire for Swede, their VLA play is going to be pretty limited, especially the first half of the season. So Swede needs to come up with an answer for that pretty quickly because as much as I respect Jordan Smith's game, I don't think that anybody at any position other than maybe libero, like I said, it's reasonable to expect them to keep their level that high for 4 best-of-5s in 2 days.
Yeah, and even with a Division Cup coming up next, If Jordan is the only setter at the Division Cup or the Central Division Cup, that's going to be a very, very tall order for them,
Oh yeah.
even with playing some of the potential lower level tier two teams early in the tournament. Those are the ones, if you're going to have a 1 and 2 setter, you would look to try to get that second setter involved a little bit more, give you that break. But if you're having to grind through some of those, it's going to be pretty difficult for them to just cap off some of those points early.
Yeah, we talk about it in the VLA all the time, and I'm not just like the cup tournaments, which obviously we'll talk about the West Division Cup coming up this weekend, but even the regular season events and the entire season as a whole. The format of the VLA, especially in Tier 1, encourages depth. To succeed in the VLA at any tournament, any event for any season, you've got to have a deep bench. You've got to be able to go to that bench and use those guys and still keep your level pretty darn high. You cannot depend on one setter for your whole season. You can't even depend on like 3 outside hitters is not enough. 2 middle blockers, definitely not enough. 1 opposite is definitely not enough. And that was another problem for Swede, that George Coogan played every point of every set at opposite for Swede that first event. That sort of thing is not sustainable. And Swede knows that. Like they know that now with their journey from tier through tier 2, earning all those points to get to the tier 1 level, they know the depth that it takes. But now they've got to really organize their roster to make sure that they have those high level bodies to compete at these tournaments where you're playing a bunch of matches in a weekend. So they've got about a month to figure that out before the Chicago event in early March. But I'm curious to see what they do with that.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. One thing is them being a 3 seed going into that. They run into obviously the higher level tier 2 teams right away. As opposed to seeing them perhaps later in the tournament. But that tournament clearly has proven that it doesn't really matter where you're at. You got to bring it from the first match because, I mean, number 1 seed got knocked out, was the last seed in their pool the last tournament. So, I mean, that's just one of those things. You got to be on top of that right away. Your depth roster management, it's a huge factor. It's not just, put your best 7 on the floor at any time and have them play. So we'll see how Swede adjusts to that moving forward.
Yes, we will. So let's take a look at the standings here. So by the way, this is now live. This is just a live like screen share of the VLA website, so you can all go check this out. The link should be in the description. We've got the live standings database at live updates. So this is a really great new feature. Big shout outs to our boy Andrew Adair of Stat Together for helping us parlay that already extremely useful platform into using its data for our front-facing database. So you're talking about seeds for the Central Division Cup, Vince, because we'll talk about it with the West Cup. That's how the seedings are set. You take the tier 1 teams that are there, and you rank them in the order of how they're ranked going into the tournament. So with the Central Division Cup coming up in a month, and none of these 3 teams seeing any action before that, this will be the seed order as you see it right here. Team Pineapple gets the 1, Iceman 2, Swede 3. And that will put Swede in probably a slightly more difficult pool. So that tournament's well down the road, but it's already fun to look ahead and predict about how that's going to go.
Yeah, I got nothing more on that one. You said it all.
And so speaking of this, you guys can all go check this out. This is live on the website right now. Great database view. You can sort by tier 1 or tier 2. You can sort by the overall standings where you ignore the division, just rank everybody, or you can look at it division by division. So we got everything right here. Everything is up to date for the points that the teams have earned this season, or the total like cumulative and carryover points included in tier 2's case. And this all influences how teams are going to be seeded for the divisional cup tournaments. And Vince, I think that is a pretty good segue to start talking about this weekend's event. Are we ready to talk about the West Division Cup?
Absolutely.
Let's do it. All right. So the first of the VLA Divisional Cup series of tournaments kicking off this weekend live from San Diego, the Del Mar suburb in particular, hosted by the Wave Volleyball Club, who's got a new tier 2 team in the division this year playing in Pool C. The West Division Cup comes back to SoCal. We played it last year. How many teams were in it last year? Like 10 or 11 or something like that?
believe there was 11 teams last year. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we had 11 teams on 2 courts last year. This year we've got 14 on 4 courts. So more teams, more matches, more court space, just bigger and better event in every way. It's cool to see like a divisional cup tournament be at 14 teams when the VLA Cup, like the big tournament last year, was 19. So we're getting pretty close here. It's like kind of showing the growth of just the pure number of teams that we've got in the league these days. But yeah, 14 teams. You've got both the West Division Tier 1 teams and the Rising Tide and Vince's Phoenix Ascension, and then 12 Tier 2 teams from all 3 divisions, all showing up to San Diego on Saturday morning.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. And also point out that we actually have 3 new teams with the rebrands of Lost Travelers, obviously, and then Team NV. It's pretty much the same exact lineup we had last year, which is really neat that we had so many teams return to the event. That means that obviously they enjoyed playing in it and like being a part of the VLA. Adding the 3 new teams to the lineup is really cool because you do see that growth. I mean, you can see it each year where we've just been improving and increasing our numbers, and the tournaments just keep getting bigger and bigger with a little bit more on the line every time, and it's really exciting to see our West Division continue to grow.
Yeah, it's going to be packed. The level of talent is going to be crazy. So you want to talk about how do you want to structure this? You want to talk about the format of the tournament, or you want to go pool by pool, or what do you think we should do?
Let's talk about the format first.
All right, so let's take a look at the website. I think that's the best place to kind of dive into this thing. So as you just saw, we've got 4 pools, 2 pools of 3 and 2 pools of 4. And if you followed along with the VLA last year, and we'll talk about the pools like in particular in just a minute, but the pool format for a pool of 3, it's pretty simple. It's a 3-team round robin. So 3 matches, each team plays the other teams once each. 3 matches total. Very easy to rank them 1, 2, and 3 on who gets out of the pool. So Rising Tide, Phoenix Valor, and the Seattle Riptide in Pool A. The Phoenix Ascension, the NorCal Tall Ones, and the Utah Outlaws in Pool B. So those pool formats are pretty simple, just straight 3-team round robin. The other 2 pools that have 4 teams each. The way we do it when it's 4 teams or more is we play a little bracket pool style, which I believe how they do it in a lot of beach events. So because we don't usually have time or court space to play a full round robin, what we do is we seed the teams in the pool 1 through 4, in this case 1 through 4, and then we play a little miniature bracket. So in this case, it's like Pool C, for example. The 1 seed in this pool is Emiola because they won the VLA Cup last year. The Dallas Dogs are the 4 seed because they're a brand new team. They don't have any points. So 1 plays 4. You've got 2, which is the West Coast Brigade. They've got points. They play the 3 seed in this pool, which is the San Diego Wave, our hosts. So 1 versus 4, 2 versus 3. Then the winners play and the losers play. So that noon match on Saturday, the winners play. The winner of that takes first in the pool, loser takes second, and then sort of the 3 versus 4 game where the winner of that last game takes third, the loser of that match takes fourth. So instead of playing a full 4-team round robin, which would be 6 matches, instead we just play 4. It's basically a 4-team miniature bracket, and that's how we decide 4-team pools and teams or pools of 4 teams or more in VLA Cup tournaments. So similar situation with Pool D, exact same schedule there. With Buddy Bears versus Dimes is 1 versus 4. Lost Travelers versus Team Envy is 2 versus 3. Then the winners will play and the losers will play. So that's it for pool play. Did I miss anything there?
No, you got it all.
Great. Okay, moving on to the bracket. All this, again, is on the website. You can go check it out right now. The bracket, 14 teams. So the winners of Pool A and B, they get a bye straight to the quarterfinals. So that if you win Pool A or Pool B, those 3-team pools, you go straight to the round of 8. Everybody else, every team makes the bracket, and everybody else, unless you win pools A or B, will play one like bracket sort of play-in match on Saturday afternoon. So there'll be a round of them, 3 matches at 4:30 Pacific and 3 matches at 6:30 Pacific, and then that'll feed into basically an 8-team, pretty simple 8-team bracket starting Sunday morning. So all those crossovers and all the schedule of matches, including some consolation matches, like the losers of those play-in games, they get at least 1 guaranteed match on Sunday also. And then the losers of the Pool A and Pool B winners, those matches actually get a consolation match as well. So all this is on the website, but basically it's pool play Saturday, There will be one bracket match, like the play-in round of bracket on Saturday evening, and then straight back at it on Sunday morning with the final 8 in the quarterfinals, all the way to the championship match, which will be 2 p.m. Pacific this Sunday. So that'll be a big one. Anything else about the format, Vince? I think it's honestly pretty simple.
Yeah, it's outlined pretty well, I think, and it's clear cut right there in front of you.
There it is. So yeah, well,
check the website, and it's all the information is there.
It's there. So all the information's on the website. Go check it out. Follow along throughout the weekend. We'll keep it updated. We got another cool thing that we like to do in these divisional cup tournaments and the big VLA Cup, obviously, is we'll name an all tournament team. And we've got a new little announcement related to the all tournament team. Vince, tell us about our new partnership with Axio Centripetal Training.
Yeah, so Axio Training, they have the 360 Axio trainer. I know Brandon Greenway, James Anastasiadis have been huge advocates in promoting this type of product. And so they have been gracious enough to sponsor the VLA Cup all tournament teams. All five actually will be receiving, all five teams will be receiving a Axio trainer, which goes to 8 players that we select throughout the tournament, and it's pretty fantastic sponsorship. We're really excited about this partnership. Axio Trainer, obviously a great product, really good for volleyball players considering the shoulder type of movement that it promotes, and you know the rehab, recovery, everything like that, and the strengthening. It's a fantastic product. I use it myself, and I know that a lot of other VLA players do, but it will be good to put that kind of on the forefront, reward our all tournament team players with one, and so that they can use it themselves and check it out.
So yeah, if you want a free Axio training, this little circle thing, you hold it and you rotate it. It really helps strengthen your shoulder. Give Axio a check out on social media or axiotraining.com. And if you have a particularly good tournament this weekend, your team makes it far, you make the all tournament team, you're going to get one of these for free. So big shout out to them for sponsoring the all tournament teams of every VLA Cup tournament this year. Really looking forward to that.
Absolutely, including the women's.
Yeah, great point. The women's division at the big VLA Cup. So I think that's it for tournament format. Again, everything is on the website. Go check it out. We'll be updating it live throughout the weekend. It's going to be the best place to go. So under the header, go to the Cup Series tab. West Division Cup is under there. We'll probably move it to the front page as the event comes a little bit closer. You want to talk about each pool by pool and talk about some of the teams now, Vince?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it.
All right, so let's start with Pool A. I think that the first team we obviously got to talk about here is the number 1 seed overall, the SoCal Rising Tide. One of only 2 Tier 1 teams here. They made it all the way to the finals in this tournament last year before losing a close one to Ruckus, I think 3-1 if I remember right. And Rising Tide gets the 1 seed because of their finish from last season. So since them and you guys, Vince, Ascension haven't played yet this year, that's the way that the seeding is determined. Rising Tide, especially when it's in Southern California, they field some beastly rosters, and they're always a favorite to win these tournaments. The closer it is to Southern California, the better the likelihood Rising Tide is going to go right back to the finals. So we can talk about their roster in just a second because it's pretty loaded. What do you think about this Rising Tide team, Vince, or this particular iteration of the Rising Tide that we're going to see this weekend?
I'm a big fan of it, honestly. they look really, really good. Huge addition for them. I'm looking at the roster right now. Madison Hayden is joining them. He was playing with Sport Connects last year and is now playing with Rising Tide this year. And dynamic outside hitter. Arguably was the best outside hitter in our division last year. And he was actually all tournament team in this very event last year.
Yes, he was.
So, yeah, and so I mean, he's a huge addition, but obviously, just going down the line, you got Predney's coming back, Chris Johnson, you got Chris Cons, you got Rob Malay. I mean, just tenured players, and that's one of the things that with Rising Tide, once they get those guys that have been consistently playing and they're in the gym together over there at T Street, they play really, really well together.
This is a gnarly crew of outside hitters in particular. I mean, you talked about Madison Hayden. That's a gigantic pickup coming in from the Bay Area, but now I think he lives in SoCal now, so he's playing for the Rising Tide. That's a big pickup, but Joel Schneidmiller is another name we really got to talk about. a UC Irvine kid, grew up in the Bay Area, lives in SoCal. He was overseas last year in the Netherlands. Spent a lot of time in the USA pipeline. Great size at 6'6". I've actually played against him when he was like 17, and when he was one of the top recruits in the country, and we could already tell how great of a player he was going to be. So Schneidmiller, Madison Hayden, John Predney, like all VLA second team last year, and then Austin Matautia, UCLA kid, he was also unbelievable. I think he played the Long Beach event for Rising Tide last year.
Yeah, yeah.
That
he was great. He was great. He played really well in that event too.
dude,
So
that is four incredible outside hitter options. And I mean, talking about depth, like you have to have depth to win a VLA Cup Series tournament. Like you're going to play bare minimum 2 matches Sunday, probably more likely 3 for most of the teams, and at least 3 matches on Sunday if you want to make it all the way to the final. You've got to have depth to win this tournament. I think that's kind of what the Rising Tide learned last year, is they had a phenomenal team, but they ran out of gas by the time they got to the finals because they didn't have enough bodies. That's not going to be a problem for them with this roster that I'm looking at this year.
Yeah, they're definitely going to be able to cycle through guys, give guys the opportunities to rest and be prepared for that next match. And again, like you said, that was something I think definitely affected them late in the West Division Cup last year. They had to have, I believe, Davis Cannon played every single match at that one. And so when he was, you get guys like that are really trying to grind through a tournament. They're not playing they're maybe 75, 80% in the finals. This roster has the potential to play a semifinal match and then play a championship match with a completely different lineup and still be just as effective. So it's really impressive to see, but really you expect nothing less out of Rising Tide when they're playing in Southern California.
Yeah, that's well said. I mean, Chris Johnson is an absolute monster. I love watching him play. They get Chris Kahns back at the setter spot a little earlier than they expected, which is a huge bonus. They have 3 amazing liberos. I mean, Jordan Molina won a championship with Long Beach State. The only kind of question mark I might have for them is the opposite spot. So we saw Owen Chun, the lefty out of Concordia, at VLA championships last year, and I think in Long Beach too, and he's good. And then they have this Riley Owen character who I actually don't know anything about. I'm curious to see him play. But like,
yeah, you got me on that one too. I don't know Riley Owen either.
Yeah.
But,
so no Davis Cannon, no Raymond Barsimian yet. He's overseas. Like that's the one position I just don't totally know.
Yeah, exactly. And we're going to find out. I think the other question is whether or not they can do the same thing with 3 middles going the entire time. I think that they will. No offense to the other 2 teams in their pool, but one of the lighter pools in the division or in the tournament. I think that they will be able to still be just as effective. But again, that could be the one position. As we'll look later, there are definitely stronger right sides that we know of in this event.
Yeah, and a good point about the matchup that the Rising Tide has in this pool, because just on paper, I think it would be crazy. It would be one of the great upsets in VLA history if either the Phoenix Valor or the Seattle Riptide were able to beat this Rising Tide team in pools. I do not see that happening. But I think it's important to point out, Vince, that these seeds in these pools are not random. So let's talk about that a little bit. This is not randomly seeded. So here's the order right here. There's a formula for this. So the tier 1 teams, and there's only 2 of them, the Rising Tide and the Ascension, they get seeded based on last year's finish because we haven't played anything in the West Division this year yet. After that, from seed 3, which is Emiola, all the way through 14, which is the Dallas Dogs, this is all in order of how many cumulative points and cup wins all the tier 2 teams have in the standings as of this event. So Emiola's got that cup win from the VLA Cup. The 630 Slunkers rebranded to Buddy Bears, they've got a bunch of points. New York Pride rebranded Lost Travelers, they've got a bunch of points. Brigade's got points. Tall One's got points from 2 events last year. Phoenix Valor is a new team, but they've got points from playing a bunch of off-season stuff in Arizona. So these pools they might seem imbalanced. And I mean, if we're going to learn a lot about these teams because they just haven't played any volleyball yet. We've got 4 brand new teams that have 0 points: Wave, NV, Dimes, and Dogs. All 4 of those teams, especially I'd say NV, Dimes, and maybe Wave, like they could go to the finals, they could win this tournament, but they're seated so low right now because they're brand new teams and they have no points in the database. So these seeds and these pools are not random. It is snaked 1 through 14 based on the standings coming into this tournament. But because a lot of these teams are new and because it's the first event in the West for the year, it might seem a little imbalanced, even though there was a formula for this. So I think it's important to bring that up.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is that a lot of the teams coming in with 0 points, I mean, they got to start somewhere. We That's one of the focuses for the VLA is that we reward tenure, we reward consistency, and obviously, how well you play. So it's one of those things where a few of these teams, like you point out, Lost Travelers with a rebrand of Pride is going to be relatively a high seed all the time. They've earned it. They've been playing for 3 years now, and they are where they're at. But then they're going to run across a team later that has rebranded themselves but completely diminish their own points. And but the point is that those teams with 0 points, you got to start at the bottom. You can't just jump right into it based off of potential roster or anything like that, previous history. You are where you're at for a reason.
Yep. Yeah. We don't consider anything but how many points you have in the standings when we see these tournaments. It's not about roster potential. It's not about history. It's not about anything like that. There's a formula for this. So we always follow it no matter how imbalanced it might seem. And I mean, it's fair. There's a lot of unknown in the first event of the year with so many teams that just haven't played any volleyball yet, and 4 teams that are brand new to the league. So let's go back to Pool A and talk about 2 teams that are relatively new. We saw the Seattle Riptide. They made their debut last year in this tournament. I think they finished dead last. They didn't win a match, but they played really good volleyball, and they learned kind of the depth that the tournament like this requires. And then we've got the Phoenix Valor, a team that popped up this past offseason, but has already played a lot of Tier 2 exhibition stuff in the Arizona area, which Vince obviously knows about. So, Vince, I'd say you know both of these two teams better than I do. Pick one and then kind of tell me about these other 2 teams in Pool A.
Well, we'll just start with Phoenix Valor, being that they're the 8 seed opposed to the or 8 seed.
Yeah,
8 seed,
Valor's 8,
8 seed,
Riptide's 9.
Yeah, it was around there, that snake right there we were talking about. But yeah, so Phoenix being the higher seed, they've put a lot of work in. Obviously, we see them, and sometimes we get confused of being like a 1 and 2 team when we're definitely not. We're 2 completely different organizations. They're run by Micah Steiner and Zach Lewis. And we do have a bit of a rivalry here in Arizona as far as I mean, clearly we're the Tier 1 team, and we see each other in these matches. We play a lot at these exhibitions where we're a volleyball festival and whatnot. And I mean, it's could develop into something similar to like that Chicago Swede Iceman rivalry, but the players are solid players. A lot of NAIA, some Club Arizona, U of A, ASU players, and that's just what Phoenix is developing right now. Arizona particularly is developing a really strong adult community, and a lot of players are graduating right now from our not only just the club teams like it used to be, but now we've got 4 universities that are all graduating players, and it's really growing out here. So
yeah, what is it? GCU, Park, Ottawa, and Benedictine. Is that the 4?
Yep. Yeah, well, and ACU as well. I'm sorry,
Arizona Christian.
Yeah, Arizona Christian University. So I mean, you got five universities in Arizona, in the Phoenix metropolitan area, that are producing these players. So it's really exciting to see the growth of the adult community here in Arizona, and it's both teams. Ascension obviously has improved a lot over the years, but Valor is doing the exact same thing right now, and picking up their own momentum and steam. So as far as them compared to Riptide has done a great job of adding depth to their roster this year. Last year, I think they limped in with maybe 9 guys. I know that Ascension played them in the first match of the tournament, and we won 3-0. They did play us really well. However, I think that they really went 110% against us. And then in that next match that they played, I think that they were probably about 85%. And it just kind of, they got winded from there. I mean, they enjoyed the event. They played really hard. They played well. But at the same time, when you're running with so few guys, it's really tough for you to win those late matches, which I think that they had the opportunity last year, but just didn't do it. As far as what I predict with this Pool A right now, it will really come down to the fact that Phoenix Valor and Riptide have the opportunity to walk away with points.
Right.
I don't know that they do much to Rising Tide. Again, like you said, would be one of the greatest upsets in VLA history for sure. But as far as the fact that Valor and Riptide are matched up against each other, they've earned where they're at, and they get that opportunity to not have to play two really high seeds. They're able to play someone of relative comparativeness in points.
Yeah, and I really did like Riptide's game last year, but you're exactly right. I think they had 8, maybe 9 guys, and they totally ran out of gas, and they learned. And so Chris Linky and the guys have figured that out, and they have a much deeper roster now. A couple guys that I know, Sam Cull was a Chicago guy. He played middle in Luau, Chicago for years when they were winning AA national championships at USAVs, and he's been living in Seattle. He'll be low key one of the best servers in the tournament. He's got a gnarly serve on him. And then Carlos Abels is another kid that I know. He played club at Ohio State when I was there, when I was playing against him at Purdue. He's moved to Seattle. I remember he texted me like maybe 2 years ago when he moved there. He's like, hey, you know anyone that plays volleyball in Seattle? I'm like, well, as a matter of fact, I do. We've got a VLA team that's showing up there. Let me get you connected. And here he is playing for the Riptide at the West Division Cup. So that's cool. I'm excited to see the Riptide. I'm excited to see the amount of depth that they bring. And then Valor, too, they've got a kid named Tim Lurich, a middle blocker from the University of Minnesota, another Midwestern club kid that I played against in college who's really, really good. He's spent a lot of time in Southern California, so I think he's not he doesn't have an Arizona connection, but that's a pretty nice pickup for Valor to hang around with some of the middles that they're going to have to deal with, especially for the Rising Tide. So I agree with you. I think this pool is definitely going to come down to that second match, Valor versus Riptide head-to-head. Great chance for one or maybe both to get points, but second place in this pool, when you look at kind of the bracket crossovers, second in this pool is going to have a lot better of a draw than third in this pool.
Right, absolutely.
So yeah, that's it for Pool A. Format's very simple. I think it would be remarkable if the Rising Tide were to not win this pool, but I think Valor versus Riptide is going to be a really good match. Want to move on to your pool, Vince?
Yep, let's do it.
Pool B. It's 3 teams, exact same format. We've got Vince's Phoenix Ascension. So let's talk about your team first, Vince. We've talked about you guys the last couple years as really a pleasantly surprising, accelerated rebuild after making the championship push in 2021 to make the playoffs last year, and now to have a team with all sorts of pieces, a bunch of guys overseas, just a lot of talent in the Ascension mix right now. What can we expect out of the Long Cactus men this weekend in particular?
You're going to see pretty much the same as last year to start off with. We had a lot of success with our with Turner Douglas and Sam Haggard on the outside. Obviously, Brian Lewis definitely could have gotten VLA first team last year. In my opinion, still was the best right side in the league last year. But then also Zach Melcher, Jonathan Bishop, he's been playing really well. Michael Freytag and Keaton Berry will both be back. But the big key addition to us right now is Jesus Izaguirre, coming back from the Mexican national team. He will be playing with us, and so and again, having that experience coming in, his athleticism at the libero spot, I think that was a pretty key factor for us moving forward to improve on. And I think that he gives us a little something special when we go into this event.
I cannot wait for everybody to watch Jesus play that hasn't watched him before. I even off the top of my head, like there are some great liberos in this tournament, like Jordan Molina, Rising Tide, Como from Team NV, CJ Suarez. Like Jesus might actually be the best libero in this tournament, it seems crazy to say that, but I cannot wait for people to watch this kid play. That is a big time difference maker for the Ascension backcourt. And another guy coming back who I'm really excited to see again is Ben Wolf. I know he missed like all of last year with a decently serious injury, if I remember correctly. But since he's been in the mix with you guys in the last 3 or 4 years or so, I've always really liked Ben's game. So a nice increase in depth at the middle spot.
Unfortunately, Ben actually won't be. He actually re-aggravated his injury.
Dang it!
2 weeks ago. Yeah, no, we're not too we're disappointed by it as well. And agreed with you about what he would have brought to the table for us because I mean, clearly one of the most physical middles in the game and a big guy at 6'8". But yeah, he's just had that injury a year ago, and he tried going, and it's still a lingering issue. He doesn't feel comfortable enough, and obviously we're not going to try to put him in a position to where he's got to sacrifice his body for the team or anything like that. He's got to take care of that injury. So yeah, still something that's over a year now has been just a lingering problem for him. But again, I mean, we are where we're at, and moving forward, we still have three really solid middles, all experienced, all have been playing with Ascension for years. This isn't a new group. It's not really we don't have any like key additions as far as the middle goes. So, and I think that our middles played really well last year. So I think we're in a good spot still.
Yeah, that's well said. And Brian Lewis is just absolutely the man. I love watching that guy play. I agree with you. Had a case for the best opposite in the league last year. Yeah, your starting lineup is going to be familiar, with the exception of Jesus at libero, who, I mean, if you've been watching Ascension for a really long time, you would probably remember him. But has he even played VLA before? Maybe back in 2020?
Yeah, he played 2021. He played VLA Cup. He actually swung outside. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah, he bounced on the 7-foot guy in Nebraska.
He's the one who bounced
That's
on the
right.
7-footer. Yeah. So yeah,
Great times.
He's got a few highlights, huge VLA highlights. So no, absolutely, he's really made his mark, and I think that one of the big things for him was kind of getting away from being that 1-2 libero with CJ Suarez. CJ Suarez played amazing for us, but I feel like it was kind of hindering Jesus' comfort with the team. Now I think that he's kind of gotten the opportunity to be the guy and not have to kind of sit behind somebody oftentimes. I think that he's ready to really break out of his shell.
Yeah, I can't wait to see him play again. That's going to be awesome. So the other two teams in this pool, the NorCal Tall ones, Donnie Hui and the guys coming down from some San Jose and the Bay Area. If I'm reading this roster correctly, they have 7 guys. And they did this last year, and they actually won a couple matches, like coming down to the same tournament last year in their VLA debut, playing really, really thin, still winning some games, but you're not going to win this tournament with 7 guys on your roster, even though there is some talent there.
Yeah, and talking to Donnie, I don't know that his goal is. I shouldn't say this because everyone's goal is to come in here and win. But I think what it is the guys like to go and they like to play these high level competitions. They like to play these big matches. And I think that that's kind of their focus. And I think that because actually the minimum roster was supposed to be 8 players. He begged to have an exemption to have 7 players because the 7 guys didn't really want to split the time. They wanted to get out there and they wanted to be the team and play. And I have a lot of faith in the Tall Ones being able to complete this tournament. They play in a lot of events. They play in USAV Nationals every year. They're a good team. They play, and they're deceptively good. They're one of those teams that you kind of look past, and they're going to beat you. And so they're a dangerous team when it comes into pool play. Winning a tournament, yeah, it's going to be tough just talent-wise for them not to, to really win the tournament. But as far as going and winning matches, that's something they're very capable of doing.
Yeah, Brendan Fleming in the middle is a good player. Ban Vanderleet at Stetter, Concordia is a good player. Like and I mean, Coach Donnie is obviously a good player. I don't care if he's 5'10". You've all seen him on YouTube. Like the guy can ball. So Tall Ones are going to be good. I think it's kind of the same deal in this pool as it was in Pool A, where Vince, I think your team on talent and depth is definitely the favorite to win this pool, but Tall Ones versus the Utah Outlaws could be a good match. And let's talk about the Utah Outlaws, a team that I know nothing about, being brand new this offseason, but we've seen them. I think they played exhibition. They came down to Arizona and played you guys, right, Vince?
Yeah, so a handful of players did come down. It wasn't a complete roster. They did actually bring in a couple of players from Arizona to some of the NAIA players to come in and fill in those spots. They could be very, very dangerous as well. They have a really solid group that they came with, but we're expecting a much deeper roster when they go to when they come out this weekend. Not a lot of names that I really recognize. I mean, obviously the Utah Valley guys. The fact that they've all played at the same school together goes a long way in these
Oh yeah.
circumstances, because you get into a team that's seen nationals together, or played 2-3 years of collegiate club together. They're going to be a dangerous team, and so we're expecting. I think that we beat a little bit of a low manned Utah team. They did actually beat Phoenix Valor in their match against each other. So I would not be surprised if Utah will play us really, really tough, but I could see them definitely taking second in this pool for sure.
Cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing them. There's a lot of this new West Coast talent that I'm not going to pretend to know everything about these teams because a lot of them are brand new, but it's so cool to see the growth, and a couple of them have already played some exhibitions. So yeah, I think that Outlaws versus Tall Ones match will probably determine second and third, but I'm looking forward to seeing it for sure. I want to move on to Pool C. All right, let's do it. So Pool C is one of the 4-team pools where we've got the miniature bracket pool situation going on. So the 1 seed here is Emiola. Emiola's got that one VLA Cup win, obviously the big VLA Cup tournament last year in May, which was ridiculous, the level of volleyball that team played. But it's important to point out that only two of those 7 starters from that VLA Cup winning team are on this roster this weekend. That's only Serge Nadazhdin and CJ Suarez. So a lot of those other kids are back in college, like playing Pepperdine, Cal State Northridge, like Daniel Wetters over in Finland. Like they've got a lot of guys scattered all around the world still playing volleyball right now. But this Emiola team will be good. I don't know if they're like 3 seed overall in the tournament good, but that's why they're there, is because this team has the VLA Cup win in their history.
Well, yeah, I mean they have 2 all VLA Cup tournament players too, in Serge Nadazhdin and CJ Suarez. It wasn't like they were just starters that were watching the matches.
Both yeah, both
they,
unbelievable players.
And I think that this team really depends on how healthy Serge can stay throughout the duration of the tournament. We'll be taking a lot more of the workload when you have Kyle Hobus not, passing next to you and swinging on those D-ball or on those Bics. I think that is a little bit of a factor, but they did get a good pickup with Jake Panolio, middle opposite. He actually was a former Sizzle, not Ascension player. He used to play with us, and he is a good volleyball mind, really, really athletic player. Also, Cullen Mosier, who used to play with.
Yeah, I remember Cullen.
Well, yep, GCU grad. He's another guy who has really, really good ball control. Is deceptively effective on the outside. But overall, I mean, this is the Emiola that really was last season's team, last season's Emiola team, and so they're going to be very, very dangerous. They played together a lot. They still play together in a lot of other tournaments outside of just the VLA. And so, but again, I really see that this team being as effective as Serge and CJ can carry them.
I think that's a pretty good take. Serge is as good of an outside hitter as there is in this tournament, but can he play every match, and can he be the guy for the duration? I think is a pretty good question. So Emiola, first thing Saturday morning, takes on one of our new teams, the Dallas Dogs. Daniel Jacobs, who we've talked about, former Ascension guy, played back in the first VLA event ever in 2024. Vince in the Ascension, now living in Texas, and has been part of spearheading Dallas coming into the league, which is awesome. Only other name that I even know on this roster is Tim Johnson, their opposite out of Grandview, who's a monster. Other than that, I don't really know very much about this Dallas team. So it's going to be really a lot of this pool is difficult to predict because I don't know very much about Dallas, and we only know a little bit about the San Diego Wave roster. So this bracket pool situation in Pool C really could go any way. I could see any of the 4 teams winning it. But Vince, do you know any more than I do about this Dallas team?
Who did you say you knew? Tim Johnson?
Yeah, Johnson's as an opposite.
That's one more guy that you know that I don't on this roster. No, I've heard the name Alex Lino before. Actually, I believe he's played, I want to say maybe NAGVA tournaments that I recognize the name. But even still, I'm expecting this Dallas team to be pretty good. Do they beat Emiola in their first match? Who's to say? But I think it comes down to experience right now. Dallas Dogs are a very, very new team. Emiola is experienced. I definitely think that Dallas has their work cut out for them with this pool.
Yeah, and I mean, we don't play these matches on paper. We play them on the court, obviously, but it's still difficult to pull that much conclusions out of looking at a roster on paper when it's a brand new team that we don't know that much about. But like we say all the time on this show, the VLA is a learning curve. It takes a while. It takes playing events, playing matches to figure out what it takes to be successful in this league. It's not as easy as just fielding the best group of 7, 8, or 9 players in a given weekend. It is not that simple, and not an easy first match of their VLA careers for the Dallas Dogs with Emiola, but they're going to get their feet wet very, very quickly playing in a tournament of this caliber, and I'm excited to see it because it does seem like that they have the talent and the sort of development and already like the organizational structure for a brand new team that looks like it's going to be really good down the road. But how quickly can they figure it out is what I'm curious to see.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. Very exciting, though.
Oh, yeah.
Texas finally represented in the VLA. They're very, very motivated. It's going to be great to see what they bring to the table. And I'm excited for that match. That's probably the one I'm going to be tuning into first when we're doing warm-ups.
Yeah, that is first thing in the morning. These 14 pools start at 8 a.m. Pacific on Saturday. And so the other one, the 10 a.m. match, an all SoCal affair, the West Coast Brigade out of Costa Mesa, who made their debut in this tournament last year against our hosts, the San Diego Wave, who have played a little bit. They played in that Long Beach Pyramid tournament that we've seen a lot of media come out of about a month ago, but this will be the Waves VLA debut, which I'm really excited about. Any takes on that particular matchup, Vince? Brigade versus San Diego.
Well, first I want to point out it's going to be really exciting between these two because both of them took third in that Long Beach tournament. Yeah, so it's I really feel like they're a pretty evenly matched team. Starting with Brigade, big shout out to Carlos Rivera. He's one of my favorite setters. He's such a good player, and I really like the way he manages himself on the court. He's got a lot of fire, and he's just really exciting to watch. So
yeah, he was Long Beach State setter right after Josh Tuaninga graduated. So that's some serious experience.
That senior year there, and in Ascension, we used to go out and play Long Beach every fall as a preseason match, and when we got to play against Carlos Rivera that year. It was really exciting to play against him. I mean, just such a dynamic player, and again, very fiery, but very in control when he's in his element, and it's really really fun to watch him play. But I think that he's really a key for these guys because when they didn't have him last year, they really struggled. But when he was there, they were a very dangerous team.
That's exactly right. And he was there at the West Division Cup last year. They were extremely close to upsetting Sport Connects early and making a little bit of a run in that tournament. But then the rest of the year, as Brigade traveled everywhere there was, not having Rivera there made a huge difference. So setters make a difference in volleyball, sure enough. But I don't know as many of the other weapons around him as I did on last year's team. I know Jacob Martinez has done a really good job of putting this roster together with a lot more consistency in mind. I do know Alec Krillis in the middle, a great kid from Chicago who played at Concordia and Irvine. But other than that, there's a lot of unknowns to this Brigade team for me as well. But a setter of Carlos Rivera's caliber can really carry a team a long way.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, I personally think that he's the best setter in this pool, which makes Brigade very potent when, any one of these 4 teams could definitely walk away with this pool.
The only other setter I think might hold a candle to him in this pool is the San Diego Wave setter. To segue to that, Evan Barry is the setter at Stanford between Kavika Shoji and James Shaw. And there was no drop off in the level of that offense from the setter position in between those two ridiculous players. So I really liked watching Evan Barry play growing up. It's cool to see him play VLA. I know he's a San Diego kid. This San Diego Wave team, you mentioned they got third at that Long Beach tournament. I know they didn't even have all of these pieces that I'm looking at when they played that. Scott Hartley, Hawaii kid at the outside hitter spot, is a monster.
Yeah, absolutely. I got a highlight blocking him once, so I know him. No, but yeah, I know. Scott Hartley is a fantastic player. Yeah, and this Wave team, I mean, San Diego has, for whatever reason, has not been represented with a professional level team. as long as I can remember. I mean, when PVL was around, I mean, there was nothing out of San Diego, and they have so much talent. It's one of the biggest volleyball communities, one of the best level talent wise, and I am really excited to have San Diego involved with the VLA finally.
Yeah, it's about time.
Yeah, and I think that they're going to do a lot of damage in this tournament. I think they're a very dangerous team. I think that no one really wants to run into them early in the bracket. That's for sure.
I think it's possible they can win this pool. Like that's maybe a little crazy to say with Emiola there and playing against a Brigade team who has been there before, but this Wave team could win this pool. And also, I've got to give the club a shout out for stepping up to host this tournament. I can't wait to be there in their facility. But like this Wave team is legit. It seems to me from what you've told me, Vince, that they're really enthusiastic. They're super prepared. They're excited about the opportunity to play VLA. And yeah, it's about time that we had a community like San Diego represented. This team does not. They're not just like happy to be there though. This team is going to come in and try and win this tournament in their debut as a VLA squad. And honestly, I could kind of see it.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, super motivated team. They're still kind of learning the ropes on how things work as far as a league perspective, the promotion side of things and whatnot. But I think that they're going to figure it out really quick. And they're going to be definitely a favorite, maybe not this year, but maybe, in 2 years, 3 years time to be a potential tier 1 team.
Yeah, agreed. And it's interesting to point out that Brigade versus Wave head to head, both of those teams later in the season are going to play up at the tier 1 events in the West Division. Brigade in a couple weeks actually in Arizona, and the Wave much later on in Long Beach in May. So both of those teams will get a lot more experience in those events, but they're starting it off this season playing against each other head to head in Pool C. Ready to move on to the last pool?
Yep.
All right, Pool D. We've got our other regional or other divisional participants in this pool. The 630 Buddy Bears, a rebrand from last year's 630 Slunkers team that finished third at this tournament. They're coming in from Chicagoland. They're the 1 seed in this pool. Then the New York Lost Travelers, like Vince talked about, a rebrand of the New York Pride. Terrence Crosshand's guys who also played this tournament last year. They're coming in from the East Coast. So some teams coming in for this tournament from all over the country. The Buddy Bears taking on the Bay Area Dimes first thing. And
I want to point out right now, Pool D is literally the rebranded pool.
Oh, you're right. All 4 teams. It's hilarious. So yeah, the Buddy Bears, but the difference is that 2 of them kept their points. The other 2 did not. So the 630 Buddy Bears are literally just a rebrand of the 630 Slunkers. They carry over all the points that team earned last year. Same with the Lost Travelers and the New York Pride. But Team NV out of Las Vegas and the Bay Area Dimes, different story. Both of those teams do have significant VLA experience, but they're starting from dead last, 0 points from the very beginning in the standings, which is why they're seated where they are. But that makes this the most interesting pool of the 4, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're going to see it if you follow the VLA last year. I mean, you know the teams that are involved. I mean, looking at the rosters, I mean, they're pretty much the comparable rosters to what they were in previous events. It's nothing new. But it's still exciting because you see that this Buddy Bears team and their previous brand had a very good rivalry kind of with the Team Envy, actually taking the 5 twice last year in this very cup. So, I mean, there's definitely some interesting storylines in here, even though the brand names of the teams are not the same as they were last year.
Yeah, we'll make sure on the broadcast that everyone knows the kind of teams that we're talking about. So this Buddy Bears team, really good. We met them last year. Generally undersized across the board, but they play way bigger than that. They played Tier 2 championships even last year. So the club is really good. The 630 Junior Boys Club, really, really good. So a lot of great resources into this thing. And then the Bay Area Dimes, a rebrand of San Francisco Sport Connect. So they played Tier 1 last year, but they changed ownership. They dropped down to the Tier 2 level. They're starting from 0 in terms of the standings. But this roster is pretty similar. I mean, they've got, except even a couple huge pickups. I mean, Josh Stewart, the setter out of Pepperdine, is a massive pickup. They've still got huge middles. They've still got Eric Mahalski on the right side. And I guess the only kind of question I have is that if they lose Madison Hayden to the Rising Tide, what's their outside hitter position going to look like? But everything else, this Bay Area Dimes team now latched onto the Beta Bay Club in San Jose and the surrounding area. I don't care if they have 0 points in the standings. I don't care if they're seed like 13 overall. I think they got third in this tournament last year when they were Sport Connects, only losing to Ruckus and Rising Tide. They could easily go that far again this year.
Yeah, absolutely. They definitely have the potential. I mean, I think that they have the potential to even win this pool, depending on how the setter play is. Actually, I think the bigger question with this group is going to be the outsides compared to what they had before. I think that right side as well. I mean, losing
Hackworth, yeah, Hackworth in Chicago
year. I mean,
now.
He was the one guy who I thought that was really battling with Brian Lewis before he was injured his ankle, I believe, last year and was out for a little while. But I mean, with not having that right side is as good as Hackworth. We'll see how they do. I mean, I think that they're just still kind of a newer group. They haven't really played a lot with this exact group. So there will be a little bit of a learning curve, but I think, Ryan Bridge has got a good, mind. He's a good leader on that group. And I think that they're going to be pretty effective, but arguably they could win this pool pretty easily.
It's very possible. I would probably pick them over the 630 Buddy Bears on average size alone. I mean, they've got definitely the only 7-footer on the roster this tournament in Kevin Rakestraw. And there's nobody on that Buddy Bears team that can even come close to matching up with that size. So curious to see that. Last matchup that I'm interested in, the New York Lost Travelers, who, again, they were the New York Pride, taking on Team NV out of Las Vegas. And it's important to note, Team NV is a Ruckus rebrand. So Ruckus still exists in the VLA database, but this is a different team starting from 0 points, but it's going to be a lot of the familiar faces if you've watched Ruckus teams in the past, like the team that won this tournament last year. Joe Kaliakamoa, Garrett Como, Michael Wexter, Caleb Denmark, James Anastasiades, and apparently his younger brother, who I didn't know existed. Liam Maxwell is an amazing third outside hitter. Great middles, Mark Olson, who Vince obviously knows. Like this very similar team to the Ruckus team that won this tournament last year, but rebranded, starting from 0 in the standings. And it's not sandbagging. Like if you're going to rebrand, if you're going to choose to start from 0 in the VLA standings, you are going to start from 0 no matter how good your roster is. And unfortunately, I think it's the Lost Travelers who suffer from being a decently high-seeded team and having to play against basically the reigning champions in the first round.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's you get placed where you get placed, you know, and these circumstances happen. Bay Area Dimes having to rebrand wasn't exactly, the ideal situation for them. Same thing a little bit with Team Envy. There's circumstances involved, and obviously we don't want to, throw restrictions out there or anything like that. But both groups knew exactly what they needed to do, and we're totally fine with where they're at. Both of them are just excited to be part of this and playing volleyball. But yeah, unfortunately, for some other teams, not even necessarily themselves, have to run into those. You work really hard to get that high seed, and then all of a sudden, a team that previously won the tournament decides to be the last seed in the tournament. It happens sometimes, but everyone's got to get out there. You got to play your matches, and one match doesn't define the entire tournament until it's elimination time. So I think that with the pools the way they are set up, again, I think that Lost Travelers would rather play them in the first match than the last match, right?
That's a great point. And again, everybody makes the bracket, so nobody is getting eliminated in pool play here. Everybody makes the bracket regardless. But I mean, a potential match between Team NV and the Bay Area Dimes in noon Saturday to potentially win this pool is going to be a real tone setter for that entire gym. I would bet that everybody available is going to be watching that one. It's going to have really close eyes on that as kind of a potential tone setter for who might go make a run at winning this tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be very exciting.
Yeah, so this might be my favorite pool. I think it's also the trickiest to pick. I definitely think that Team NV and the Bay Area Dimes will win their first matches in play for the pool title, but I really couldn't pick a winner on that one, so I'm excited to see that. All right. So that's all the pools. We made it through. Let's talk about the format just one more time. Pool play Saturday morning. The 3-team pools play a round robin. The 4-team pools play a miniature bracket. That goes straight into the bracket play, which you're looking at the website. All this is up to date. There's the play-in round of the bracket on Saturday evening. Then Sunday morning, the quarterfinals and on. And everybody, even if you lose in the play-in round, everybody is guaranteed a Sunday match. So there's that consolation round that you'll see there on the website. This is all the info you need about this tournament. It's all on the website. It'll be updated throughout the tournament. I think the last kind of thing, Vince, to talk about is broadcasting, like kind of a way of the stream schedule for people to follow along with it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We're really excited about what we've got coming up.
Yeah, so this is the cool part. This is the part of the VLA Cup Series tournaments that I really, really like. So the way this is going to work is that every match on all 4 courts will be running at least 2 or 3 courts in every hour of the tournament. But for most of pool play, it'll be all 4. Every match will have its own dedicated live stream. And so those will be for members only. You can pick up a membership for just 99 cents here on the YouTube channel. Everything will be here on the YouTube channel, but the dedicated matches, the dedicated streams for every individual match will be members only. So you can pick up the membership for 99 cents. The link is in the description for that. But also, the public stream is the one that I really like. If you're a fan of NFL Red Zone, or if you watch golf, or if you watch like the German Bundesliga in volleyball has started doing this like this year, a sort of volleyball broadcast where they whip around between the courts of the games that are going on right now. That's exactly what we're going to do. We tried this out last year, huge success. We've got 4 great cameras at 1080p 60 FPS that we're going to be switching between at all times. I'll be kind of commentating over all 4 of them, really. And it'll be basically one long continuous stream from 8 a.m. Saturday morning all the way through probably about 8 p.m. Saturday night, nonstop, was whipping around between all the courts that are going on, talking about all the active games, getting player interviews, just following along with the entire tournament. That'll be one long public stream that'll be active literally all day, where we kind of jump around from court to court. But there will also be the dedicated stream for every match that you can find if you're a member of the YouTube channel. So that's kind of the plan, and I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, I think the Red Zone channel was a huge success last year. The Red Zone stream, I should say, was a huge success last year. And it is really neat to just follow along as we go. Seeing just a bunch of the different event matches kind of at their peaks, kind of highlighting what's going on, what's interesting, what's relevant at that time. But then obviously we got to have the option for the viewers that aren't interested in some of those other ones. Obviously, everyone's got their favorite teams that they're following, so they have the opportunity to go and watch those as well. So it's a great feature. We're really excited about being able to put this production together. This is actually the 3rd time that we'll be doing it, but not to this extent. This is the first time that we're doing a 4-court operation. And so it's going to be there's going to be a little bit of trial by fire, but last year we put together a great product at the VLA Cup, and I think that we're going to put a great product together for our viewers for the West Division Cup.
Agreed. So you're already in the right place to watch all the games for the West Division Cup this weekend. They'll be right here on YouTube, bright and early, 8 a.m. Pacific. Saturday morning, we'll kick off the full day sort of whip around NFL Red Zone style stream, but also we'll have dedicated streams for every court going on. So those will be for members only. Make sure you pick up a membership to watch all the games. All the detail you can ask for this tournament is on the website. It's up to date. It will be continued to be updated throughout the tournament. All sorts of matches going on, and obviously stay tuned to VLA social media, Instagram, Facebook, the YouTube channel here, obviously, for all the coverage just from random little things, people with their phones out, people just capturing awesome moments that happened during this tournament. So, Vince, I think that's about it, my man. I'm looking forward to seeing you in San Diego on Saturday morning.
Absolutely. Very, very excited to get out there and kick off this season for the West Division.
It's going to be a great one, ladies and gentlemen. So we'll see you Saturday morning. Let us know. Comment on this video. DM us on Instagram. Whatever. If you have any questions, let us know. Stay tuned to the website. Stay tuned to all the VLA platforms. We'll see you Saturday morning in San Diego, and we'll see you probably next week on Around the VLA to catch up with the tournament. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you on Saturday.
Take care.